You're listening to Cinematic Adventures, proud member of the Misfit Faction Media Network.
Good morning, Vietnam!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
Road, where we're going, we don't need roads.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
Vices? We don't need no vices. I don't have to show you any stinking vices.
You make me want to be a better man.
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
He's looking at you, kid.
Not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cinematic Adventures. If you're listening to us on the go, you can catch us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere else you can listen to podcasts. I'm happy to be back here. My name is Sean. I am one of the hosts here. We are back in studio, both of us, at the same time. Hard to believe, right, Paul?
Oh, that is my intro. I am Paul. I am here in the studio. Yes.
Yes, Paul. You're always in the studio.
I am always in the studio.
You know, if you were not in the studio and I was, that'd be weird.
Get out of my house. Why are you in my house?
The cat let me in.
There was a great meme that went around on Instagram. It was like, what's something that's really nice when you're with somebody but terrifying when you're alone? And it's one of them was like getting kissed in your sleep.
God.
Why are you in my house?
Well, it's good being back because I honestly can't even remember the last time we recorded here in the studio.
It's been months.
It's been months, yeah. So because I moved. Paul's been busy with work. I've been busy with work. Ronnie's been busy with work. It's been just really challenging.
Who's that third one?
Ronnie.
Ronald.
Yes. So we are back here in Cinematic Adventures. A lot has happened since our last episode. Sorry again that we really weren't able to do a Halloween-centric month. But we are going to talk about a series of films today that you can, kind of put in the Halloween, bubble.
So, Sean,
Yes.
if I were to say Kate Beckinsale, a lot of leather, and the early 2000s, what would you say?
Oh, God, Van Helsing.
Yeah, there it is. See, I knew you would pick that up. We did not rehearse that one.
No, not at all.
We got to do that movie at some point.
We do have to do that movie.
I actually really enjoy that movie.
It's watchable.
It was on the other day.
It's watchable.
It's
bad, but it's watchable.
It was also, again, it was in this range of movies where they wanted to make old-timey things have very technologically advanced other things.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a gas-powered crossbow.
He's got and they had a liquid that made the sun. That's
he had like
a vampires,
like a sun bomb, and then he had. I always liked the cross that opened up. That one was actually kind of cool.
My 16-year-old self was so excited for that movie.
Oh, I know you were.
I was so
excited for that movie.
But no, we are going to talk about the other leather all black vampire Kate Beckinsale movie series, and that was
The Matrix.
No.
Ironically, there are vampires in The Matrix Reloaded.
Whatever. Monica Bellucci.
Oh, Monica Bellucci, yeah. There was a lot. The early 2000s was a really big time for leather.
Yeah, I'm not upset about it.
I'm not upset about it either, but there was just so much.
There was a lot of leather.
I have a leather jacket, but they were wearing.
Have you ever tried wearing leather pants?
No, I saw that episode of Friends.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Baby powder, not good.
I don't have enough.
That's so true. No, we're talking about Underworld, Paul.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well then, let me change my notes. Stand by.
Alrighty then. But we wanted to start off with some notes, news and notes and news.
It's because I said notes.
You did say notes,
yeah.
But hey. So we wanted to talk about first something we've been mentioning over mostly the last 4 months, and that is the SAG-AFTRA strike. Finally was resolved
in a monumental contract. I haven't seen a lot of the details, but they're saying it's valued in the billions.
It's valued in the billions, but they still didn't get the big thing they wanted, which was the streaming.
There is a streaming bonus.
There's a streaming bonus, but it's still like pennies to the dollar compared to what they were asking for.
So I'm of two minds about it, right? Streaming does not give the same kind of continuous revenue that watching on TV does. For those of you guys who aren't sure, television, the money comes in from the advertisements placed with the show, right? So let's take Friends, one of the highest revenue shows of all time and has some of the highest residuals. They make like $20 million a year.
Yeah.
When an episode of Friends pops up on TBS, people will watch it and they'll watch the commercials, and that's where the money comes from, advertising. So even that's the same thing happened with Supernatural. Supernatural got super popular on Netflix, so they put it on TNT for like 4 episodes in a row. Even Lucifer is so funny on TNT because they only have the broadcast rights to like the first 3 seasons.
Really?
Because the rest moved to Netflix.
Okay.
So Fox had the original broadcast rights, and then it moved to Netflix for, I think it's like last 2 seasons or something like that. And every time Lucifer's on, it's the same round of episodes because they do like a Wednesday night
marathon.
Yeah, thank you. And basically every time I watch it, I'm like, I just watched this episode.
I know. Well, that's not. It's not a negative, but that's like when you have these networks are now putting on these shows like 4 or 5 episodes in a row. I'm not bashing Supernatural, but that's how I was able to watch the first 5 seasons in like 3 weeks.
That's how I started watching it because before it was on Netflix, they would show it on TNT for these long stretches. And I remember I started like midway through season 1 and was able to watch it from there. I just DVR'd it.
So my thing with this contract is obviously they're getting paid. The strike was for the actors who were not millionaires.
They're for the actors
that's what people don't understand.
Like Ki Hoi Kwan.
Yeah,
short rounds.
Extras. These are people who can't just sit at home when they're not working and live off of a movie.
It's for the CW actors.
Not even it's for all.
But like
the
that,
actors.
it's that kind of. I don't want to say caliber because it's not a testament to talent. It's just a testament to what kind of work that they do.
But all people see is these high-paid actors bitching about money, and like, no, it's the same when the MLB players go on strike or the NFL players go on strike. It's more for the middle-range people or the low-totem people. It's good to see the high-end people fighting for those people.
Yeah.
But it just makes everybody who is not involved in this look at it go like, why are you asking for more money? You're already rich.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
For actors work, most who do television, like I'm going to use the CW for an example because I'm very familiar with them because a lot of the actors on the CW that I follow were posting about this. A lot of Supernatural actors, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow, all that stuff. Yeah. And they would post like, hey, we worked 10 months out of the year and we got paid this much money. But for those other 2 months, we had nothing. We don't get paid for those other 2 months. And then in Hollywood, if you don't make X amount of money, you don't get health insurance or health benefits or all these things. And I'm like, I get that. Like if I were to make $60,000 for 10 months of work and then make nothing else, like I'm sure it's sustainable, but then suddenly it's like, oh, I got to pay for health insurance. I got to do this.
And that's only if you're working consistently. I mean, with television shows, they're getting canceled. Your character could be written out of the show, yada, yada, yada.
I'll never forget Short Round's Oscar acceptance speech where he brings that up and he's like, I was going to quit acting because I couldn't live off of it anymore. And now I'm up here getting an Academy Award. And he's been on Loki and he's been fantastic. I'm glad we're getting a resurgence of him.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely.
He definitely deserves it. I'll always say it. He's just such a treasure. But
it's good that it's been resolved. The writer's strike has also been resolved. So you're already seeing the wheel turning.
I've never seen more.
Trailers are popping up.
Oh my God, fast.
There are some movies that are still getting delayed a little bit, but stuff's moving. It was, we were, I mean, again, if you listen to us regularly, you do know we don't really do a lot of the
modern movies.
The modern, contemporary movies that are in theaters just because we just have a lot of trouble getting to the theater to go see them. But
we don't believe in bootleg movies. That's not something that we've like.
No,
I always like to support the actual movies and support our especially like our local theaters.
Yeah.
But so let's make sure that everybody is also aware. We are not going to see a lot of new content the next year. There's going to be the same thing happened the last writer's strike where seasons got cut short and there was a big influx in non-scripted television. We are going to see a lot more reality TV shows. You're going to see a lot more making of type deals because they already have all that footage. And it's going to be I think this strike was longer than the previous one.
I believe it was. I think both strikes have been the longest of their respective,
So like even Marvel, the powerhouse of Marvel that's been cranking out movies every year, they're only going to have only Deadpool 3 is coming out. And that's only because they were in the middle of shooting it.
Yeah. Way off topic, but have you heard the rumors that Kevin Feige might be taking over Star Wars?
I have not heard. I know that's always been a rumble, but I would not be okay with it. I'd rather
Jon Favreau.
Yes, 1,000%.
Kevin Feige hasn't really distinguished himself after Endgame, really.
Yeah, even though that's more of a conversation for multiverse. We'll still talk about it just because this week the Marvels came out and it's been very strange the reactions to it. Some people like the first review I read was from IGN. They gave it an 8 out of 10. They were like, it's a return to form. It's really good. Then the tomato reveal came out, and it was like rotten for a couple of days. And now suddenly, I think it's at 64% on Rotten Tomatoes, and then 84% audience score.
I don't get it.
I don't trust movie reviews because you can bomb them so hard.
Yeah, and also I'm kind of surprised by that because people just hated the first Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I mean it did well.
It did well, but like just nobody would stop bitching about
how unlikable she was in that movie.
So, all right, well it's good that these have been resolved, and we will hopefully start to see the ball rolling and getting stuff. On that note, a trailer for a movie we are very anticipating for dropped yesterday or Wednesday, and that is the trailer for the new Ghostbusters movie,
The Frozen Kingdom.
The Frozen Kingdom. And I will say this, when that trailer started playing, I was like,
what the hell is this?
What am I watching?
When it first started, I thought it was like going to be like set in the like the 80s almost. It had a very 80s disaster movie look to it.
Well, it was like, what am I watching some horror movie? Am I watching another remake of The Fog?
So
what is this?
If you guys haven't seen it, it's just a trailer, so there's not much to spoil.
Yeah.
It is a continuation of Ghostbusters Afterlife, and a lot of this, like the kids are back, Paul Rudd is back, the mom's back. We didn't see Podcast in the trailer, which is sad because he stole the show.
He was great. You see Bill Murray, you see Ernie Hudson, you see Dan Aykroyd, so at least they're going to be making appearances in this movie. I don't know to what extent.
I keep forgetting at the end of the previous one, Winston reopened the firehouse. I keep forgetting that.
I kind of hoped they just kept Firehouse as the title, but I can understand why they don't.
And it looks like they're taking over as the Ghostbusters, the kids. Like they're suited up. The mom's suited up. Paul Rudd's suited up.
I was a little annoyed by that.
The mom is a little much. Paul Rudd makes sense for me, but because in all honesty, when there was talk about them rebooting it, he was a name that was always been attached to it.
But I will admit, I was very happy when he just wasn't a Bill Murray copy, and
he was great in the last movie.
Yeah, he was basically a Rick Moranis copy when you think about it.
He was Rick Moranis if Lewis was a scientist.
Yes.
Yeah.
But literally, you don't see anything. All you really see is that the force that they're dealing with somehow freezes everything.
So let's talk about this really quick. Ghostbusters, while being it's a supernatural comedy series.
Yeah.
It's not a horror.
This looked horror.
There are people dying gruesomely.
That's what I was kind of surprised by. I can't say anything. I know nothing, but I feel like somehow it'll get like
everybody unfreezes and
it'll be like Batman and Robin. You got 10 minutes to thaw the city.
Quick, let's change. I'm never gonna forget. And just wait till we get to Underworld: Rise of the Lycans, because I have thoughts on that.
Okay.
All right. In a similar vein.
All right.
But for me, like this movie, Afterlife was such a nice love letter to Ghostbusters.
It was, and it's not. What's his name? Jason Reitman's not doing this one.
I thought he was.
No, it's a different director. It's the writer of the. It's one of the writers of the previous movie is directing it.
And
I think Jason Reitman's producing it, but it's not. He's not directing it.
But Kunal Najeem, is in it.
Yeah,
and I love him. We fell in love with him on Franklin and Bash.
He's turned out to be like just so good in everything he does.
And you know what the best thing about him is? He's got such great comedic timing, and now he's like super chiseled, so it's really funny. Like he had a body that was designed to be in shape. He just didn't get there right away. Like his facial structure, I'm like, oh my god, he's just a god. But he's in it. Patton Oswalt's in it.
Yep. William Atherton is going to be reprising his role as Walter Peck,
which is
you don't
crazy.
see him in the trailer, but he is in the official cast. So hey, looking forward to it. Is it coming out? It's not coming out. March. Okay.
So that's the other thing.
Bummer. That's a bummer release date.
They're going to try and get whatever they can whenever they can.
I understand that, but I mean, at least put in the summer. That's a summer movie. It's got to be a summer movie.
But I'm apprehensive because also I just don't like Finn Wolfhard. I hated him in the last season of Stranger Things.
He really had nothing to do in the last season of Stranger Things.
He was just an asshole.
Well, yeah, he was. I won't deny that, but.
And he's just got such a doofy looking face. His face to hair ratio is just so weird.
He's a kid.
He's like 20.
No, he's not that old.
He's like 15. Shut up.
I can't with you, man.
Well, what is it? Millie Bobby Brown's 18. Like, so they're all 18, 19.
Gatton is, I think he's like 18.
Yeah, he's still so precious.
Dude, man, he is talented. He's probably the most talented of all of them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just on Broadway and all that stuff. But let's do some sad gears.
We didn't really touch on this on our last episode, and it had happened already, but we are going to touch on it. Sadly, 2 weeks ago, now it's been since we learned that Matthew Perry, obviously one of the 6 stars of the classic sitcom Friends, passed away. They haven't released any. He had no drugs in his system.
Supposedly. They're saying it was cardiac arrest, and then he drowned in his hot tub. So supposedly he had been doing like a pickleball or something like that beforehand, and he probably just overexerted himself and then went into arrest in the hot tub.
Horrible.
Yeah, it's a shame. He was in his mid-50s, I want to say.
Mid-50s. He was still very young. Obviously, they're all relatively of the same age.
Yeah,
all 6 of
mid-50s.
them. The love just started pouring out, from every actor that's known him. Nobody had a bad word to say about him.
Yeah.
He was clean. He had been working with other people to get them clean. It's and of course now everywhere you go, there's clips of Friends and all that stuff, and it's, I'm guilty of it too, watching couple episodes here and there just to remember them, and it's
so really creepy, really spooky. Producer Melanie and I Friends was on, and we were watching it. I think it was yesterday or today even, and it was the episode with Rachel's other sister, played by Christina Applegate, and there's a whole conversation about how if Ross and Rachel die, who would take care of the baby? And at one point, like, he said, "Well, I guess I'm going to be the first one to die then." And like Mel and I looked at each other, we're like, "Oh,
no." That's...
Like, but he was such a talent, and not just for Friends. Like, he was great in anything that he was in.
He will forever be known for Friends because that role was perfect for him. He was perfect for that role. The creators of Friends openly say, like, he was the character we struggled the most to cast, and then when Matthew Perry walked in, they were like,
"That's the guy."
Oh my God! Like, this guy is it.
I liked him in The Whole Nine Yards. I don't think I saw the second one.
I don't think I saw the second one either. So he had a relatively small movie career. He did, The Whole Nine Yards was probably his biggest hit.
17 again.
Apparently
he wanted Zac-Efron to play him in an autobiography. Zac-Efron was saying how honored he was.
He did. What was it? There was a good romantic comedy he did early on with Salma Hayek.
I know which one you're talking about.
Fools Rush In.
There it is. Thank you.
That was a good movie. I enjoyed that movie. He would go on to be in a bunch of TV shows after Friends. Obviously, none of them, had the success of Friends. He did a memorable guest spot on The West Wing, like a 2-episode or 3-episode guest spot where he plays a Republican lawyer. And I mean, he is fantastic in it. He has a few moments of comedy, but playing it straight for drama, and he was wonderful. He did the next Aaron Sorkin TV series, Studio 60, which was like a behind the scenes of Saturday Night Live. And he was fantastic on that. I watched that show to this day, and it's just hysterical.
He did not have a lot of films to his name.
No, he really didn't. I think his last film, honestly, might have been the Chris Farley movie, the one that Chris Farley passed away on, or
14 movie roles. No, 17 again was his last one.
17 again was his last one, but he was barely in the movie.
I know.
It's a Zac-Efron movie that Matthew Perry just happens to be in.
Yeah, shame.
So yeah, it was really hard news to hear.
Oh, The Odd Couple.
The show.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was okay. That show.
It was all right.
It was all right. But yeah, rest in peace to Matthew Perry. That was a tough one because he's for me, I'm only speaking for me, he's the reason I watch Friends.
He is my favorite character on Friends.
Just
as much as I love Joey.
Yeah.
And it's always fun to look at your own friend group and see who's who in each group. And for me, Ronnie will always be Joey.
Yeah.
There's no comparison. You and I are very good combinations of Ross and Chandler. But
you're more Chandler though. You got that sarcasm that just
it's just because I talk faster than I think.
Yeah, okay.
Which sometimes is terrible and does not help. But let's get into.
Well, I was going to say, you want to take a quick break, and then we'll come back. We've been talking for a while.
All right, let's take a quick break.
All right.
Hey guys, it's Paul, and the Misfit Faction is looking for your help. We are trying to grow not only our network, but also grow our brands, and the best way to do that is if you guys are looking to start your very own podcast. Maybe you guys have been listening to us for a while. Maybe it's something you guys have always wanted to do, but you're not sure how to get started. If you go to podbean.com/misfitfaction, you guys will get a month of free podcasting on us. That is a gift from us. So make sure if you guys are looking to start your own show, you reach out to us and go to podbean.com/misfitfaction. Also, maybe you guys have your own online business or service that you're always looking to grow, and advertising is a very big part of that. If you guys go to sponsorship.podbean.com/misfitfaction, you guys can get $100 worth of free advertising, again, as a thank you from us to you guys. That's sponsorship.podbean.com/misfitfaction.
And we're back, and let's jump into the Underworld franchise, Paul.
If I jump dramatically from a building, will I land dramatically as well?
Are you a vampire?
Well, it's currently dark out, and we're doing things, so that's about the criteria in these movies. Should I get some leather?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Do you think they wear leather underwear too in these movies?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, I have follow-up questions for Kate Beckinsale specifically.
Oh, okay. Well, put the word out, see if she'll come on Misfit Faction.
MF Uncensored. Oh my God! Can you imagine if Kate Beckinsale was on?
She seems to have that personality that she would gladly do that.
Oh my God! She seems like she's just such a
I would just want to ask her about Pete Davidson.
About what? Dating Pete Davidson?
Yeah. It's like, how did that guy get you?
I will tell you, it's probably because he has something that he offers to the ladies. All
Goes
right.
from Michael Sheen to Pete Davidson.
It's I don't get Hollywood's fascination with weird tangent.
I don't have a problem with Pete Davidson. I don't.
I just don't like him.
Why?
I just don't find him funny.
Okay, that's fair.
And I've given him a chance. Like, it's not like a personal vindictive thing. It's like I've watched his comedy specials and I've watched him on SNL. There are times where I chuckle.
He's Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, I can see that.
If you watch him on SNL, he breaks character all the time.
Which I don't have a problem with. That's always really funny.
Yeah.
There's like 3 skits that I'll always laugh at with him. Mm-hmm. The one he's doing with Timothée Chalamet, where they're rappers. Mm-hmm. I'll always laugh because Timothée Chalamet loses it. The one where Eminem yells at him for constantly making the parody videos. Oh, and now he just did the "I'm Just Pete" video from "I'm Just Ken." Mm-hmm. It's pretty funny. But all right, so. Let's start in 2003.
20 years.
Holy crap. All right. So, arguably, all right, we're going to kind of set the stage here. I will say that the second one of these films is, by a small margin, my favorite.
I don't disagree.
For me, it goes 2, 1, and then I have really struggled with what my third one is, and I'm going to explain that.
So I'm gonna specify here that I think we're mainly going to talk about the first 3 movies in the series on this episode. Paul, you have seen Awakening, but you have not seen Blood Wars. I have not seen Awakening or Blood Wars, so I really can't speak to those 2 movies.
So we'll briefly mention Awakening and my thoughts on it, because it's also super forgettable.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I think Evolution is
it was a step up in every right way.
Step up in everything. The first one is just great because it introduces the myth, the lore of the characters, and you really just it's like you hit the ground running. I mean, there's no
there's narration.
There's
and
narration,
exposition.
but it starts off 5 minutes in, it's like boom, boom, boom. We're in this world.
One of the best things about the first movie in particular is we learn along with Michael the story.
Yes.
And I think that it's fun. It's a better way, and they explain why it happens. So let's start with the characters. Obviously, Celine, played by Kate Beckinsale, is the main character. Thoughts on Celine?
I thought Celine was a great character because it's not only obviously female, strong female character that can take care of herself. She is obviously a vampire, what they call a death dealer in this world. You immediately realize with her is that she is sort of on the outs with the leader of the coven,
the current one,
the current leader of the coven, because the true leader is asleep.
So what they do is they establish the vampire lore very quickly, where there's 2 facets of the vampire community. One is the elite, the European bougie-looking vampires, because I think this takes place in London, if memory serves.
I want to say it's
in Europe,
Prague or something.
Yeah, it takes place in Europe.
Yeah,
but so it's a very aristocratic, and they're drinking blood from wine glasses, and then the death dealers are the soldiers, the police force, and they're in this eternal war with the werewolves, also known as Lycans in this. So the vampires' hierarchy is they have 3 elders that rotate it being in charge, and then the covens are all run by somebody in the coven. In this case, it is Craven.
Yeah.
So Celine is already on the outs with the coven, but for some reason Craven's obsessed with her, and he's like,
oh yeah, he's he just wants to be her. He wants her by his side.
So I read the novel of this movie.
Oh really?
And in the novel, Craven and the blonde girl Erica, they get together. They don't show it in the movie, but it was filmed, and you'd see it in a flashback when Craven gets bit in the next movie.
Ah, okay.
So some things about the vampires in this. A, sunlight can kill them.
Yes.
B, apparently enough bullets can too.
True.
C, they don't do crosses or stakes or anything like that.
No.
And then the last thing is they can transfer memories through blood.
Yes.
Now, in this, they try and go a little bit more of a more scientific route. They establish that thousands of years ago, there was one person who, in the middle of this terrible virus that wiped out his village, his body adapted to it, and he became the first immortal. He then had 3 sons. One son was bitten by a bat, one was bitten by a wolf, and then the other was, quote-unquote,
normal,
left to walk the road of humanity. And I love these movies. I'm a big fan.
Alexander Corvinus.
Yes, who we do meet in the second movie. So that's the vampire and werewolf lore. That's why there's no other supernatural creatures in these movies, where it's a little bit more, kind of like Blade, where it's a lot more biological and scientific based. So
I love the when they call the Lycans. Like,
yes,
that was such a...
Well, also, and this is my problem with Rise of the Lycans. They established that the Lycans are a different breed of werewolf, right? Who can change... But in this movie, they specifically say that after thousands of years of training and evolution, you're able to control that transformation.
Yeah.
We see Michael struggle. He starts changing against his will, and they have to stop him in the back of the cop car. But then in Rise of the Lycans, they're like, no, they're fine. They can just change whenever they want. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right.
And that's always my biggest continuity problem.
Well, I feel like Rise of the Lycans, which we'll talk about in a little bit, was just kind of a forced...
It was a cash grab, I hate to say. So
I agree.
These movies have a very devoted following. Against a combined budget of $207 million for all 5 movies, it's made $539 million. So, it's done well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did not see these movies in theaters. I'll be honest. When I did, I regret that because these would have been fun to watch in a movie theater. It was a while before I sat down to watch these movies because, in a way, I think I was just being what's the word? Because again, Van Helsing literally came out like
almost the same year. I think.
No, it was the same year. I just can't remember which came out first.
This was September 19th of 2003.
So it was after. Van Helsing was like Memorial Day in that time area. So it was kind of like, I was like, oh no, I'm going to stick by Van Helsing, even though the movie was absolute garbage. And I'm not going to watch this other vampire movie with Kate Beckinsale. Yeah, bad choice. But what I like about this movie is it's, as I said before, it's like you hit the ground running immediately. It's the Lycans are chasing this guy, Michael Corvin, and the vampires are, and she's trying to figure out why. She's like, why are they after this one guy?
And they established very early on that the werewolves are the bad guys.
Yeah, they make it out to be like the werewolves are the bad guys,
and that's
we're gonna root for the vampires.
That's why Lucien, the villain, is so sympathetic. And so eventually
played so well by Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen does a great job playing Lucien. So we get introduced to Lucien before the other characters know that he's alive, because supposedly he's been killed long ago.
Yeah.
He's the leader of the Lycans. We later find out he's the first Lycan, which again, it just doesn't make sense continuity-wise.
Continuity.
Also, they also established that fully transformed werewolves are more powerful than vampires. So there's no reason that if the werewolves all learned how to transform immediately, that they should have lost. Anyway, I digress on that one. The only one that was able to go toe-to-toe with an actual vampire in the first, or werewolf in the first movie, was Victor. And he kicks the thing's ass. Like, he is a monster at it. So Lucien's plan in this is he's trying to find the original strain of the Corvinus virus in Michael Corvin.
He's looking up every person with a similar name to Corvinus, trying to find that
pure,
the human, because he's the descendant of the human part of Alexander of Corvinus.
Has an unmutated virus inside of him, and basically it could be used to create a hybrid.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about hybrids more for the second movie, but that is the plot. And Celine stumbles onto it, and she's trying to convince everybody that this is what's happening. And she ends up saving Michael. And they start a romance, of course, because that's just the way that it is. But he gets bitten by Lucien in the process.
Yes.
Again, really cool scene. And they make the werewolves like scary in this. They do.
And in him biting Michael, you get that little bit of, because he was now transferring the memories, so you see this one little scene of Lucien's past where you assume it's his wife or girlfriend, whatever, being killed, at the hands of Victor.
You see him getting tortured first.
See him getting tortured, and then you see he has to sit there and watch as his love is being burned alive by the sun. And there's this great back and forth with the two of them where Michael goes like, "You loved her," and it's like, it was a werewolf and a vampire. This was not,
and she was pregnant.
And she was pregnant, and it was Victor's daughter.
And the reason he killed her was because he didn't want that abomination to exist. And that's why he kind of adopted Celine, even though we find out at the end that Victor's the one that killed Celine's entire family. She believed it was the Lycans who did it.
Yes.
So the movie's good in terms of script. It's good in terms of production value. Again, the first movie's exceptionally solid.
Yeah.
And
good action.
Great action sequences. And of course, the ending where Michael finally becomes a hybrid is still one of the coolest scenes.
Oh, that's great.
It is one of my favorite shots is when he hits Victor out of the room and he lands in the water, and as he's landing you just see Michael standing there. It's a very simple shot to do where basically they just have two of the like an actor and a stunt and they just have him standing there, but it's just and also good for Bill Nighy. He does a lot of the physical stuff in this.
This was 2003, so this is like right after Love Actually, which was like kind of like his coming out to American audiences. Like, he'd been known to British audiences, but that was like his first movie where like everybody in America was like, who is this guy? And then all of a sudden, boom, he's in this vampire movie. And he kills it because especially when he's first awoken by Celine and he's got like, he's all green, skeletal. He's got these like tubes sticking out of him that are like, obviously giving him his life energy back. And he's got this like, lizardy twitch to him.
The tick, yeah. He's
tick.
Like, yeah.
And it's like, it's just so good. So good. I was bummed that obviously, spoiler, he gets killed in the end. I kind of would have liked to have seen
Luckily,
him more.
we do see him quite often again.
But, not to the extent of he is like the big bad or anything like that. But yeah, he was fantastic. Kate Beckinsale's fantastic. Scott Speedman as Michael, I mean, he's there. He's good. He's not like, he doesn't. I don't think he gives anything to the role. That's
he plays the role he has to, where he's just like, "What the hell is going on?"
He's the damsel in distress.
He's the audience surrogate.
Yeah,
and he does fine with it. And again, especially once he transforms at the end, I think he's better in the second movie.
I agree.
And
I think everyone is better in the second movie.
So let's do a Star City rating for the first movie.
All right. I just want to give a quick shout out to Michael Sheen as Lucian because very much like Bill Nighy, Michael Sheen. This was kind of like Michael Sheen's introduction to American audiences. And he playing this character that you would think is just doesn't have any impactful thing to him, but the way he plays it, you feel for this guy.
And he's got the coolest jacket.
And I'm sorry, but he kind of reminds me of Paul Rubens as the vampire in Buffy when he's running. Yeah. One scene, which I love that scene where he's running and it looks like he's running fast, but he's like, you could tell it's just kind of
he's on a platform or whatever.
He does a great job.
Yeah. And the movie does end on a cliffhanger.
It does.
We find it goes back to the vault where the other elders are being kept.
And you see the blood
And they do a good job establishing, because, when they're talking about the legend of the Corvinus clan, like Victor says, there's a descendant of the
Corvinus
right there. And it's the other elder, Marcus. So a vampire gets killed, or a werewolf gets killed in there, and the blood seeps into Marcus.
It's the scientist guy.
Then blood seeps into Marcus's coffin, and you see his eyes open up, but they're hybrid eyes. They do a lot of good work with eyes in this. Like the werewolf eyes, when they transform, they look like the full moon. That was the design idea.
Yes, you're right.
The vampires have ice blue eyes, and then the hybrids have all black eyes. So they do. I like really good eye effects. There's just something about them they're super easy to do.
Yeah.
You can either do contacts or you could do visual effects, but there's just something about like fun eye effects that they show that something's going on very simply. So Star City rating for the first one.
I give this movie a 4.
I'm with you. 4 completely.
I rewatched it obviously a couple weeks ago because we intended to record it,
for Halloween.
And I'm watching it and I'm just like, I really like this movie.
Yeah.
Like it is just.
It's got good pacing.
That's the key. The pacing is fantastic.
There's very little downtime.
Very little.
And when the downtime does happen, they immediately cut to here's a good example. When Michael is in the mansion and it's like the girl is looking at him, Erica.
Yeah.
And she checks, and it's a very slow scene with tension. And then when she realizes what he is, she does the thing where she jumps up to the wall. Like that's a very good
little.
It breaks up the tension.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a 4. You want to talk about the second movie though?
Oh, let's go. Underworld Evolution, which was
3 years.
released 3 years later, 2006.
Which at the time was a very reasonable time for a sequel to come out.
Agreed. I mean, I don't know if Underworld was considered the big box office hit that, a sequel was like, we got to have it right away. I mean, 3 years is a decent gap.
I mean, on a budget of $22 million, it pulled in 95.
Okay.
That's
for 2003, that's pretty good.
That's pretty solid.
That's pretty good, but I wouldn't call that by any stretch a huge blockbuster.
Especially considering it has a 31% on Rotten Tomatoes for
Really?
critics. These movies do not have good critic scores, but they have very good audience scores. But anyway, so the second movie.
If you listen to us, we really don't take a lot of what critics say.
No. So the second movie rolls around, and they're in full swing where the movie starts off running.
Mm-hmm.
And first we get a flashback of the capture of the first werewolf, William. So in this movie, it's established that William and Marcus are twins.
Mm-hmm.
They're the two sons of the Corvinuses that got bitten
Marcus
and transformed.
by the bat, William by the wolf.
And they also, again, they establish in this movie that werewolves, when they were bit at this time, they turn into feral beasts. There was no turning back for them.
And there was nothing left of them. There was like
no humanity. No. So William was an insatiable force, and he would not stop. So they wanted to capture him, and they basically locked him away. And obviously Marcus is like, no. But Victor's like, yeah.
Yeah.
We find out originally the vampires all believed that Victor was the most powerful, but it was actually Marcus. And Marcus just turned Victor for his army to try and capture William. So they were also, I think, was it this one that they were afraid that if they killed they were led to believe that if William died, the werewolves that were created would die too.
But
they didn't want to lose their slaves.
But they also were afraid that because I think Victor
thing with Marcus.
The reason why no one ever overthrowed Marcus was because they were afraid that if Marcus died, then they would all become human again.
Yeah, and
which is actually a solid, idea.
Yeah. They never go with it. That's an idea that's been exposed in movies before. Like Dracula was famous for it.
I mean, it was more the invasion of the body. That's like an invasion of the body snatcher thing, like the faculty, where like you kill the main thing and they all return back to normal. But in terms of vampires, that never really happened. That was never a thing in vampire movies. So I was intrigued that they went that route, but obviously nothing came of it.
Yeah,
because obviously Marcus dies. And
so after the flashback, we see Celine's trying to get to Marcus to wake him up to try and because Craven escapes at the end of the first movie. Yeah. He kills Lucian and he gets away. But I forgot to mention that I really love that scene where he tells her to bite him. I don't know what it is, just like
because he knows
that
he sees the compassion she has for him.
But he's also like, I'm gonna die, but at least my will was still done. Like I still got my way. Anyway, so Craven tries to kill Marcus before he gets there, but Marcus turns. Now, let's talk about the creature effects. The first movie had good creature effects. The transformations to werewolf is a little janky nowadays, but in all honesty, like they did practical effects for the vampires, the werewolves, and it looks great.
Yeah.
That's also why they didn't have it. I think that's also why they were like, some werewolves can transform whenever they want because we don't have a budget. And it's a solid thing. So this movie, the design for Marcus is wonderful. They do a great job with his creature effects. And like sometimes his wings are more like Doc Ock tentacles where he can use them.
He uses them to move.
And or like to grab things. Like he grabs Tannis and pulls him in.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And like his jacket's all torn up from it, which is even better. When he's in full garb, they do a great job. And they upgraded the way Michael looks in this too. He looks very different, more werewolfy. So the lore determines that a hybrid, whatever species they were first, that's the dominant species. So obviously for Marcus, he was a vampire first. That's why he's way more vampire-y. Michael was a werewolf first, technically. Even though he didn't finish his first transformation. Still counts, I guess. It was just the tip of transformation.
Just the tip.
And so that's why he's more werewolfy. So that they lean into it more in this movie. The most depressing scene in this entire movie, when Michael was so excited to eat a meal, and he couldn't. They established that the vampires and werewolves can't eat human food.
Yeah, I remember that scene. He's in like this like
little like shitty pub. Yeah,
little pub, and he's like throwing everything up.
He's so excited too, but he's like so worried.
And he's just like,
because he's tired of drinking blood.
Yeah, and his body is just like going haywire on.
Yeah, everything goes bad.
But yeah,
that opening scene though,
opening scene where he kills Craven,
and makes his grand appearance and all that stuff. But I will say that there's a lot of fighting between Michael and Marcus in this. They have like 2 throwdowns.
2 good throwdowns, yeah.
And the one of them on the truck is still really good, especially when Michael transforms for the first time. Because whenever he dramatically takes off his jacket, I'm like, yes, do it, man, do it. Like they really, everything got dialed up to 11.
It did. And it was a solid story to continue on that.
So the story is, so Marcus is trying to find William because now he thinks he's powerful enough to control him.
William.
It makes you wonder what would happen if William bit a vampire. Yeah, I know.
But what I like about this one is it also delves deeper into Celine's past. Because she's having these little memory flashbacks herself to
when she was a child.
When she was a child, and we don't know what it is at first. It's like a castle, looks like, and she's a little girl running around, and it turns out it's the where they locked William away.
So we find out that Victor commissioned Celine's family to build the tomb for William, and that's why he killed them afterwards, so they could never tell anybody.
Yeah,
but it's really well done, and of course I like they bring the trinkets into the necklaces from the first movie. They have an actual point to the story, which is good, and we get introduced to Alexander Corvinus,
played by Derek Jacobi.
What do you think about the first immortal in this?
I think he's great. I mean, he really has that aura around him that you can believe he is the immortal man. Like, he is the father of all of this, and he's been alive now for hundreds and hundreds of years. There's a great moment where Celine realizes, and she goes, "You're Alexander Corvinus."
Yeah.
And he's kind of got this reaction to the point where he's both like proud that he's this man, or he's also like, I've been alive for so long, like I'm just like,
basically all he's been doing is trying to keep the war secret.
And he's trying to, like, obviously, make sure his sons are still alive, but not destroying, all the everything.
So, Marcus, I keep getting the names confused.
Yeah, I know.
Marcus eventually shows up, and not only does he kill or he mortally wounds Corvinus, because they do establish that just because he's immortal doesn't mean he can't die. He just can't die of old age.
Yeah.
And he, like, straight up kills Michael.
He does.
It's gruesome, and it is heartbreaking when she's trying to revive him, and she's just hysterical and crying and just like trying to drip blood into his mouth. It's a powerful scene. It's like, it's really well done by her, by Kate Beckinsale. But she ends up biting Corvinus and becoming a hybrid herself. But because it's more of like the straight immortal one, she gets like white eyes and she can stay in the sunlight now, we find out, and she's stronger and faster and all that stuff. So we get the big showdown after William's release. Really cool creature effects too for William. Basically just bigger.
And again, they're using Celine to, direct through this now underwater tomb, because basically the thing has been flooded
for thousands of years.
And so, like, she's having these memories of going, like, it's through here, I got to do this to get into here. And it's just a really well done idea to continue this.
And I will say some of the most gruesome deaths. Michael eventually does revive, and he rips the top half of William's head off. And then Marcus gets put into the helicopter blades after his hand gets cut off.
That's right.
And it's surprisingly gruesome.
The killing of William was I didn't expect that to happen as fast. I was really expecting more of a lengthier fight between him and Michael.
Yeah,
but he took care of William like that.
But it's almost like when he fought, because for William, not only has William been in prison for thousands of years, probably, and without food or water, so he's probably a little weak. But also look at him fighting Victor, a powerful elder. Like, he still was able to kind of match Victor.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's gruesome. And the one thing about the two of them that I really enjoy, and about the series as a whole, the werewolves don't talk.
No, they don't.
I would be really upset to see Michael even in his hybrid form talk.
Well, what movie did werewolves talk?
I'm just thinking,
I'm just curious.
Like, I watched Teen Wolf, stuff like that.
Okay.
Like, it's always really strange.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, but that's thankfully.
So this movie's also the prime example of, we doubled the budget, and everything's better, and we made more money.
We did.
On a budget of $45 million, which is about twice as much as the previous one.
$45 million.
$45 million, box office of $113. So Yeah, again, did really well.
Did really well. Did almost 3 times its budget, and yeah, it was. I remember when it came out in theaters. It was
17% on Rotten Tomatoes. Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Look, you guys.
I'm gonna say 4.5 out of 5.
I agree.
It is my favorite of the films.
I agree.
All right, let's get to the terrible half.
Okay.
Or the downside. This is the downside. Underworld: Rise of the Lycans came out January 23rd, 2009. These became January movies. The majority of them came out in January.
Yeah. Well, Underworld: Rise of the Lycans, obviously, A, it was a prequel. B, it was the first one not directed by Len Wiseman. And C, it obviously does not have Kate Beckinsale in it.
Correct.
So the movie is literally driven on Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen and Bill Nighy are the main reasons why.
And they're very good.
You go see this. And they are. Like, it was great seeing Bill Nighy in the role again full time, Michael Sheen in the role again full time, and they don't, they're playing it straight. They're giving it as much all as they did in the first movie. You also have Rona Mitra as
she was another one that they really pushed at this time. She was also in that movie.
A Kid in Aladdin's Palace.
Besides that, no, it was like an apocalypse movie.
I know which one you're talking about, but I can't.
Doomsday. Yeah,
but what I remember when this came out, everybody was making fun of the fact that in the first movie, in the flashback, she's blonde.
Yeah.
And in this one, she's, they obviously cast Rona Mitra, I think, because she resembles Kate Beckinsale.
Oh, absolutely.
And the whole notion that Victor didn't kill Kate Beckinsale, didn't kill Celine because she looked like her daughter. Well, Celine's not blonde, so it made sense that they make the daughter, black-haired, because it made her look a lot like it. This movie, to me, is Rogue One.
It's also the movie with the weirdest sex scene of all time.
I don't even remember.
When we find out that Sonya and
Lucien are
together, they get busy on a cliff, and there's one scene where she's so strong that she's holding him over the cliff. He's got like his legs around him. It's just super awkward. I'm like,
I do remember that. Oh my god.
I'm like, what are the mechanics? I don't. Is she?
Like, don't let go, Jack.
What is she holding him with? And I'm sure it's not pleasant for either party. But anyway,
apparently it was.
I guess,
as I recall, he had a pretty happy face on.
Big smile on.
This movie didn't need to happen. It was basically taking that one little
subplot,
20-second flashback and making a movie out of it. I mean, are there some great scenes in it? Yeah, I like the scene in the beginning where she's obviously, rushing back to the castle and being chased by the werewolves, and all of a sudden Lucien comes out of nowhere and takes like this like javelin and kills the wolf before it attacks her. It's very interesting seeing Lucien's relationship with Victor. I mean, he basically raised him, and he truly worked for the vampires. I mean, and then you see where it all changes. So the movie works in that it does obviously stretch out this plot point, but it does it in a good way. I was not annoyed by this movie, but did it have to happen? No, but it was relatively good.
Yeah,
I give it a 3.5.
I'm gonna give it I'm teetering between 3 and 3.5.
I
think I would have to rewatch it, and again, it also ends with the werewolves quote unquote winning. Again, it attacks the established lore in certain ways that really bother me.
Yeah.
Not like obviously when you do a prequel, the lore is going to get messed with. It's just the way that it happens.
I mean, even in freaking Star Wars, the lore gets messed with.
Yes.
I mean,
it
just happens.
Like they took one of the biggest things. Also, for me, werewolf transformations, like only the most powerful werewolf should be able to control that transformation. That's like an established thing, and it's something that I always really liked. But in this, they had it established, and I was really cool with it, and I was like, that's awesome. And then they backtracked really hard to the point where it wouldn't have made sense for the werewolves to ever have trouble with the vampires.
Yeah.
Because they even show it in the flashbacks. The full moon comes out, and that's why Lucien transforms. But in this, they made it seem like it just made him more powerful enough to transform.
Yeah.
That would have been a better moment. If they wanted to establish Lucien as the first one to control the transformation, that would have been the moment. That, like, the whole movie leading up to him transforming then, and then maybe establishing afterwards that he can transform it at will. Mm-hmm. Or even better, have it that the moon's not there and he manages to transform for the first time there. That would have been a great moment. But this movie had a budget of $35 million, so a little bit less than the previous one, and then a box office of 91.4. Again, these movies all do surprisingly well. And Michael Sheen really does a great job. And I know he did some cameo stuff in what was it? In the second movie, I think there were some flashbacks.
I think
archived.
It was archived footage. I don't think he actually did anything.
Yeah,
we didn't talk about the awkwardness of the Underworld films because during I think it was, I don't know if they'd already separated, but Michael Sheen and Kate Beckinsale were, I don't know if they were married, but they were in a relationship. They have a child, and she ended up falling in love with the director Len Wiseman, and the two of them ended up getting married. But I just remember that was always a storyline, especially when this one came out, and the fact that Len Wiseman didn't direct it, I thought was interesting. But they are, I think, still great friends, Michael Sheen and Kate Beckinsale. They are, there are some fun tweets the two of them put out, especially about their daughter. Especially, I think there was this great one where their daughter got accepted to college, and they were all like celebrating and stuff. So they're very they're very laid back, very happy.
Good for them. And that's obviously the best.
Good relationship. No animosity or anything like that. And they're both very good actors.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Kate Beckinsale doesn't get her due. I think she's a very good actress.
Oh, I agree. Now let's talk about where the movies really started to go downhill. Underworld Awakening came out January 18th, 2012 on a budget of $70 million. It pulled in $160.1 million, so it did surprisingly well.
Yeah.
Here's my biggest gripe with the movie. Not only do they not get Scott Speedman back as Michael for the one scene that he is in, they also decide from a distance to CGI his face and then kill him. God, the movie starts off with Michael dying and Celine getting knocked unconscious and captured. Apparently the government has now found out about... The government and the general public now know about vampires and werewolves. Can you imagine seeing that on the news? I think there was a point in our history, and it might even still be, that if that happened on the news, we'd be like, well, figures. I mean, we were blasé about aliens being real. Government releases 92 UFO videos. We're like, 2020 is a weird year. That was how that went in our house. So Celine wakes up from being imprisoned.
For 12 years.
For 12 years. And we find out throughout the course of this movie that she has a daughter named Eve. And she is a hybrid. I did like her transformations for the most part. And she reminds me very much of X-23 or Laura from Logan. Very similar in that. But basically... The werewolves have a corporation now, or there's this corporation that pretends like, oh, we're trying to save everyone. They're all werewolves, we find out. And like the main bad guy, who's the main bad guy? What's his face? Come on, I can figure this out.
Charles Dance?
No, Stephen Ray. Oh. As Dr. Jacob Lane, the head scientist of Antigen, and he turns himself into a big old scary werewolf. Like it's very strange. This whole movie, and they introduce Theo James, who I like for the most part. I've seen him in a couple of things. He was in the Divergent series. That was like his big thing. But he was just in The White Lotus. That was it. In the second season. And I remember watching. Did you watch The White Lotus?
No, did not.
Highly recommend. But and then there's also like the super Lycan named this guy Quint, who like turns into the giant werewolf. Like it's this whole movie's just. And we find out at the end that Michael was actually alive the whole time.
Oh, no.
And apparently they can all see through each other's eyes now. Weird superpowers that they introduce. It's just it's super forgettable. I'm not a big fan of it. You didn't see this movie, did you? No. All right. Oh, so that's why you're not talking. I told you I didn't. I thought it was just the last one.
No, I told you the last two I didn't see.
Yeah, it is.
I really had much desire. I didn't. I thought the second one ended on a good note. I don't feel like I didn't need any more.
Yeah, it's just meh. It's super, super meh. But on a budget of $70 million, it pulled in $160. So
it made money. I mean,
Yeah.
It takes a lot for a movie to not make money nowadays.
I know, right? So I'm gonna give it a 2.5. Okay. It is completely mediocre. Again, I know it, and it's there. I know I've seen I've seen bits and pieces of Blood Wars. Yeah. I have not watched it in its entirety. So I will say it came out in 2016 on a budget of $35 million. It raked in $81.1 million. So not bad. Yeah. Like not bad at all.
That's not good though for this type of movie.
For such a really bad decline. And again, Scott Speedman gets replaced by, let's see, Trent Garrett plays Michael Corvin. Yeah, I don't know who that is.
No idea.
Yeah. Speedman, blah, 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 blah.
The fact that like they didn't? I mean, did Scott Speedman like just decide he didn't want to do it, or
Probably
did they not offer? I mean, nothing. It's not like Scott Speedman's doing much with his career.
But also, like the first movie or like the previous one, he would have only been in for the beginning and ending.
Well, that's what I'm saying though. Was it like a Crispin Glover situation where like he decided not to do it, so they were like, okay, we're gonna kill you off. If he had said he wanted to do it, they might have made a story where he was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to me, but
yeah, it's just it's very meh. It is. It's a shame because there's no work. Like they were talking about more. Apparently, the last one, Blood Wars, was supposed to be a reboot, and it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, and apparently this was back in 2018 that there were plans for another one, but Kate Beckinsale said she wouldn't play the character again. But then in July of 2021, she backtracked and stated she wouldn't be opposed to reprising the role. I mean, if they came out with another one, I'd see it just to be like, okay, let's see where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the last two films have kind of put a nail in the coffin, mind the pun, of this franchise.
Oh, apparently Michael Corbin died off screen in the last one.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, exposition. So let's talk about some fun things that they did have plans. Apparently, they had a couple of canceled projects. One was an I, Frankenstein crossover.
I saw that.
I would have been okay.
Well, that's interesting because again, this was in that time period where they were trying to reboot all the Universal monsters. So they were like, let's take this vampire franchise that we already know and love, and let's put it with this now Frankenstein franchise that's kind of supposed to be an underworld-ish type of a movie. Yeah, no.
And unfortunately, that movie barely broke its budget.
No.
Let's see. They also wanted to do a Blade crossover when Wesley Snipes was still Blade because New Line Cinema still had the rights to the franchise. But once Marvel Comics or Marvel Studios regained the rights, then they were like, nah, which would have been strange, but okay.
I mean, it would have been it would have been, I'm assuming it would have been a cameo or would have been a full movie crossover.
A crossover film. Well, let's not forget that we almost got Michael Morbius at the end of Blade.
That's right.
And that scene exists. You can see it. Like,
who plays him?
It's like a distant shot of him just standing on a rooftop. But yeah, weird. And apparently they wanted to do a Resident Evil crossover at some point, which would have been stupid. That's a franchise that I don't know what happened. Again, a lot of leather and Mila Jokovic and the guy who I think
a lot of leather.
Again, it was the same. Yeah, her husband.
Anderson.
And
Paul Anderson.
God, he's a terrible director. And
I don't know if he's a terrible director.
They keep giving him things to do. It's so weird.
Okay, let's calm down. It's not like he's Yule Bowl.
Or Tommy Wiseau.
Well, he hasn't done anything since The Room.
I know he did something else, or he's got something else coming out, which is crazy to think. Did you see The Room?
No.
Oh my God, it's so bad.
I know.
I love it.
You told me, but it's just,
like
I can watch Plan 9 from Outer Space. I don't know if I could sit down and watch The Room.
Oh no, dude, we got to watch The Room at some point. I would do a commentary, or at least like a watch along where you watch it for the first time.
Okay.
That would be a lot of fun. But
yeah, this was fun.
This is probably one of my favorite horror franchises, in all honesty.
But the funny thing is, I don't even know if I consider it a horror franchise. It's more of an action adventure horror franchise. Like it's not. Horror.
It's not straight up horror. Yeah, no.
You know, it's more of a It's like it was like a really cool take on the horror genre, but it wasn't a true horror movie in my opinion.
Did you know that they had a television series that entered early development in 2017?
I think I do remember that they were planning that, or they were talking about a TV series. Was she involved at all?
No.
I didn't think.
I'd watch it though. I think that'd be a nice Netflix.
I want to know what the storyline would be. If you're going to have her characters, are going to be a totally different world. What is it? Are they just going to use the Underworld name and then?
No, they said it would be very different than films. Big departure. Yeah. But
so to me, then that's not Underworld.
You're not Underworld.
Thank you.
Well, this was fun.
This was fun.
If you guys are looking for more content, make sure you guys check out our website, themisfitfaction.com. There you find links to not only this show, but some of our other shows like MF Uncensored and the Multiverse Fancast. I almost said this one.
I know we're kind of backlogged with any Fan Feedback Fridays.
Oh, my Lanta.
Did you even post one today?
I did not.
It's a Friday. We're recording on a Friday.
In person. So also, if you guys have been looking at our Facebook and you're wondering why we're not posting as much, so there's been an issue that I've been having with Podbean posting directly to Facebook, where Facebook keeps saying that it's spam and deleting it. So I'm just having some issues.
I don't like spam.
Yeah, I'm just having some issues. Let's see. let's see. The last Fan Feedback Friday. What is a horror crossover you would like to see?
Ooh.
Yeah. We have Insidious and Sinister. That'd be fun. Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and Freddy Krueger. Leprechauns and Saw. And Abbott and Costello meet Barbie. I don't know if that's a horror crossover, but I'll take it. What about you? Is there a horror crossover that you would like to see?
Oh God, I was thinking of this one, and I was like, who have we not had a crossover, or would we love a crossover for? And I was struggling with this one. I couldn't think of one that was good.
So you know what? I'll throw a DC Marvel one out there: Constantine and Blade.
Okay,
That'd be fun.
like against each other or fighting with each other?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, both.
So Batman, Superman-ish, like where at first they're antagonistic towards each other, and then
like every other one of those movies. You know, whatever. But nothing. You got one?
I can't think of anything that's just that matches what people wrote already. Like nothing really jumps out at me.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one day we'll talk about the Dark Universe attempt
We did.
with the Mummy and all that.
Yeah,
stuff?
we talked. Well, we didn't. I don't know. We talked about when we did the Monster Squad. We talked about. The
Oh yeah,
Dark
we did. Yeah, we
Universe,
talked about it.
And I just went on a rant.
Make sure you guys check that out. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap us up. If you guys want to participate in Fan Feedback Friday or any of our social media, just type in Cinematic Adventures or the Misfit Faction. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all that stuff. So make sure you guys check that out.
Alrighty then. Well, this has been fun as always, Paul. So can't wait to do this again. Hopefully, sooner rather than later.
I guess.
Yeah, all right. Well, as always, I'm Sean.
And I'm Paul.
And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening.
Or not. We're not your dad.
Okay.
All right, bye.